For, I guess, the part of the show that everybody has kind of been looking forward to. I know that we had kind of teased a special guest that we would have here with us on the show, and we do, of course. We've got the program coordinator at the Alex Haley Museum and Interpretive Center in Henning, Tennessee. She's a cousin of Alex Haley and a direct descendant of Chicken George and Kunta Kinte, as seen in the miniseries Roots. We've got Miss Beverly Johnson with us on the live line. How you doing, Miss Beverly?
I'm doing great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. Just wanted to jump right in. I know we had talked in the past about potentially having you join us on the show, and I just wanted to first of all thank you for actually agreeing to do so.
It's an honor.
Appreciate it. I guess the main thing that I wanted to ask you, and just in the interest of full disclosure, I had visited the Alex Haley Museum and Interpretive Center in Henning twice last year, and that's where you and I became acquaintances. And some of the questions that I'll ask you tonight, I kind of asked you, so I kind of have an idea of where you may go. But for our listeners, I guess the first question, when Alex was putting this all together, and you guys saw it, on television as a family, what was it like for folks in the family to actually see you guys as ancestors play out on the screen like that?
That is something that it's hard to, it's really hard to put that in words. Really, because at the time, I didn't know myself about Kunta Kinte and Kizzy.
Right.
Knew about Chicken George, knew about my great-grandfather Lewis, but the part that really amazed us, and I was looking at Roots with my sister by phone.
Okay.
When we saw the wagon train coming into Lauderdale County, which is the name of the county where Henning is located, that was a touching part. But see, the part about us did not really come in until Roots: The Next Generation.
Okay. Now, I guess, you kind of answered my next question. So growing up as a child, unlike Alex, you didn't get these stories like he was getting them when he was growing up.
No.
Okay.
No, we did not, because this was on my mother's side of the family, okay?
Okay.
My mother was the youngest child of 7 children. There were 4 boys and 3 girls, and so I think her father probably did more of the talking to his son.
Okay.
And by her being the youngest, she didn't know anything, but now she was the one that went with her father over to visit Alex's grandmother, which was Cynthia, and that was my grandfather's first cousin.
Okay.
So my mother remembers going over there to visit, and she remembers hearing them talk on the front porch about the African.
Okay.
But still, it didn't really mean anything. It was, it was not really something that anybody wanted to talk about other than Alex.
Right. So Alex definitely wanted to talk about it. That's what you're saying?
Absolutely. Alex was the chosen one. It was something that apparently was meant to be, because nobody was interested in that other than Alex.
Yeah. I guess, when you see it kind of play out on the screen, there are many of us that are absolutely fascinated by it. And when you call him the chosen one, that's something that kind of resonates with me, because when I watched the movie, and I've watched it pretty much my whole life. I was 3 when it first came on, and I've watched it pretty much every chance I've gotten since then. And my 9-year-old, and you remember Christina, and how and you remember how enamored she was with the family. When you mention the African, I want to kind of, for our listeners, kind of show them the breakdown with regards to the family and how you kind of are part of it. So the African, of course, is Kunta Kinte, who was brought.
Kunta Kinte, who was captured at the age of 16, I believe, and was brought over into Annapolis, Maryland, September 29, 1767, per Alex's records, per his research. And then he was sold into slavery into Spotsylvania County, Virginia. And he stayed there, got his foot cut off from trying to run away. and he met and married Belle, the big house cook, who was played by Madge Sinclair in the movie. And as far as we know, they had one daughter, and they named her Kizzy. Okay? And we all know how Kizzy ended up getting sold away from her parents because she learned to read and write. And she was sold to a plantation in North Carolina. And on that plantation, the plantation owner raped her. I forgot his name. Tom Moore is the name they gave him on TV. Of course, we know that name should have been Tom Lee, L-E-A, because the surnames were changed. Some of the surnames in the movie were changed.
Right.
Okay, and so Chicken George, of course, was the baby that she had for the slave master. And Chicken George later married a lady named Matilda, and they had 8 children. When Alex was doing his research, he was actually looking directly at his lineage most of the time. So Chicken George's son, that was Alex's direct lineage, his name was Tom. He was the blacksmith, played by George Stanford Brown on the movie. The movie, Chicken George's family was known as the Harveys. That name really should be Murray. If you read the book, you won't see in the name Harvey in there at all.
Right.
In the book, the real names were used. The Roots family name is Murray. That's why Alex's name is Alexander Murray Palmer Haley. His mother gave him all the maiden names. But Chicken George had 8 children. Tom was number 4. That was Alex's great-grandfather. The other 2 sons that Alex introduced in the book and the movie were Louis and Virgil. He didn't introduce the other ones. He talked about them in the book, but he didn't introduce them in the movie. Louis was my great-grandfather. Tom was Alex's great-grandfather. Both sons of Chicken George. So that makes, by the time he goes down the line, that makes Alex and I 5th cousins.
5th cousin.
Both of us share Chicken George as great-great-grandfather.
Wow.
So Kunta Kinte is our great-great-great-great-grandfather. Kizzy is our great-great-great-grandmother. Chicken George is our great-great-grandfather. Tom is Alex's great-grandfather. Louis is my great-grandfather. And then Cynthia, of course, is Alex's grandmother. And on down the line.
And I think Irene is his mom, I believe.
No,
Irene is Tom's wife. Yeah.
Tom and Irene
Bertha.
Were a couple. They had Bertha.
They had Bertha.
I mean, they had Cynthia. And Cynthia and Will Palmer had Bertha.
They had Bertha. All right.
Irene were the parents of Cynthia. Cynthia and Will Palmer were the parents of Bertha, and Bertha and Simon were the parents of Alex.
That's. I mean, I just to listen to you, tell it, is bringing it back to me for when we had an opportunity to meet. Jay Grizzy has a question. Jay?
Well, really not a question, but a comment. I mean, just hearing her run down that lineage, knowing that I've watched Roots and knowing what her ancestors have done through Alex Haley that put out that information, like even me and my cousin, we even tried to, when we were in college, tried to go back, and our lineage stopped around the early 1900s because we ran into that roadblock where we didn't have much of an oral history at that time. It was pretty much based off of what the state of Virginia or what census numbers we could have. So it's just amazing to know that she is running that organization and that Mr. Haley was able to go back that far, because a lot of people, a lot of African Americans don't have that ability
right.
to go back that far. And I think that's one of the things that we as a people, like, the saying is, you don't know where you're going unless you know where you came from. And
right.
they have a strong sense.
Yeah, we're still here.
A very strong sense of where they came from because it was documented and deeply rooted within them.
Jay Grizzy was just basically expressing how fortunate we are to be able to piggyback from off of Alex and seeing the fact that he was able to trace his lineage, and how a lot of us, have tried to do that and haven't even been able to get beyond the early 1900s, which also leads me to a question that we talked about when we met, the family reunions and that sort of thing that goes on. He had a big boom of those that happened in the ashes of Roots being written, and, of course, the movie being put on television. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Well, I think what happened is that desire was was already there among a lot of us to know who we were. But what Roots did, or what Alex's research did, was it awakened that desire, and it made people thirsty to want to know where they came from. I'm not saying that Alex did everything. All I know is that after Roots, people seem to, a lot of people were already having family reunions on a small scale, but it seemed that people were a lot more into wanting to just get into genealogy. I had never heard the word genealogy. It was something brand new to me. So now people are really, really, really into that, and I think Alex deserves a lot of that credit.
What do you think Alex would say now if he was here and he was able to see how we are? I mean, a large part of us wanting to have you on is because we're in Black History Month, and of course we've got a black president now, a half black president. What do you think Alex would say if he was here?
Oh, he black.
I think based on just what I know about Alex, I think he would be elated, but he was such I want to say an humble kind of person. He would never let it be known. But I've had that conversation with his son Bill before he passed away in December, and we both said that Alex would have been so happy. However, he was already upset with himself because the success of Roots kept him away from what he loved to do, which was write. He didn't get to really write anymore after doing Roots.
Right.
And if he had been afforded the opportunity at this point to continue writing and would have produced something else, he might would have been even happier. But I think at the point when he died, I don't think he had realized the impact that he had in terms of people researching their roots, but he would now. I'm sure he would. Absolutely.
Last question I want to ask you. Tell us about the Alex Haley Interpretive Center in Henning, Tennessee. I've been fortunate enough. I liked it so much I came back, and when I met with you the first time I came, I think I told you that day that I'm probably going to come back, and I did that, and I was glad to be able to do that on two separate occasions last year. Tell us a little bit about the center and why we should be sending folks into Henning to check it out.
Okay, first of all, it is where the story started, in Henning, Tennessee. This is where Chicken George got that land. We still don't know how he managed to get the land in Tennessee, but this is where he led the wagon train with 29 families from Alamance County, North Carolina, into Henning, okay? And so this is where Alex's grandparents, Will and Cynthia Palmer, built this nice house, which is now the Alex Haley Museum. Built it in 1919. They were kind of a cut above the other African-American families because Will Palmer owned that business. He owned the lumber company. And so the house has been there since 1919. It's been a museum since 1986. And that's where people would come to the Alex Haley Museum. When Alex passed away in 1992, his desire was to be buried in Henning. Alex Haley loved Henning. He had become a star, but he still had planned to come back to Henning and try to help Henning out. Henning is a very small town with a population of maybe 900 people, and most of them are African American. And so we have the Alex Haley Museum, which is the boyhood home of Alex Haley, and then we have the Alex Haley Interpretive Center that we opened in 2010, a place where we can display some of the things that Alex achieved after doing Roots. And so we have a theater, we have an exhibit area, we have a gift shop, and we have an area that we display temporary exhibits of the things that we have there in the museum. So we invite everybody to come to Henning. Now, we're like sitting in the middle of nowhere. Most people never heard of Henning. But we're about 45 miles north of Memphis. And when people come to Memphis, they quickly learn that there's no transportation service between Memphis and Henning. But somehow, please come to visit us. We will make it worth your while. It's a small town. Right now, we don't have that much. Alex had planned to do a lot. He died before he had an opportunity to do that.
Right. Well, I could speak. I could certainly personally speak to the experience of coming in there and the overwhelming sense of history that you have that comes over you. And when I came back from Henning, both times, I came into the studio, did my show, and I spent a few minutes talking about it.
More than a few.
Yeah, Grizzly is saying more than a few. But I came back and I spoke on it, and I certainly would endorse anybody wanting to go there. And I made it, known to the people that know me personally. If you want to go, let me know, and I'll go with you. Right. That's how much I enjoyed meeting with you. That's how much I enjoyed meeting with you and spending time in the center. And then, of course, I went over to the cemetery as well. And experiencing that with my daughter was the best part of it. So I wanted to thank you personally and publicly for that experience. And I also wanted to thank you for coming on the show tonight. We know your time is short, and we appreciate the amount of time that you were able to spend with us tonight. So I just wanted to, definitely, sincerely thank you for joining us.
Okay, I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You got it, everybody. That's the program coordinator of the Alex Haley Museum and Interpretive Center in Henning, Tennessee. She's the cousin of Alex Haley and a direct descendant of Chicken George and Kunta Kinte, as seen in the miniseries Roots. That was Miss Beverly Johnson. Miss Beverly, hold the line for a moment. We're gonna take a break. Marcus J. Ain't no half step, and be back in a minute.